This is a warm front. It is represented by a red line with red half circles going in the direction that the front is moving. This is a cold front. It is basically a warm front, except it's represented with a blue line and blue triangles in the way that the front is moving. This is a stationary front. It occurs when a warm and a cool front collide and they're moving their separate ways. This is an inoculated front. It is basically when cool and warm fronts hit each other, except they end up moving the same direction. This often leads to storms. This is just basically what all the fronts look like on a weather map. This is where an inoculated front would form, because the warm right here and the cold right here mix to make the inoculated right here. And then it all ends with the L, which means low pressure. This is Doppler Radar. Doppler Radar basically detects precipitation intensity, wind speed, wind direction, and provides estimate of rainfall amounts or snow amounts. It also gives forecasters the capability of providing early detection for severe thunderstorms that may bring damaging winds, large hail, heavy rain, and possibly tornadoes. Doppler radar is used to track tornadoes and hurricanes. Usually it's just for hurricanes because it's much harder to track tornadoes due to the fact that they form so fast, they move so fast, and that they die out so fast. But with hurricanes, they take many days to form, many days to move towards land, and also they die out relatively slowly, at least when it's compared to tornadoes. And also compared to tornadoes, it's very easy to track. Hurricanes are basically just ginormous storms. They can be up to 600 miles across and have winds going from speeds from 75 miles an hour to 200 miles an hour. Each hurricane usually lasts for a week, moving about 10 to 20 miles per hour over the open ocean. They always go in a counterclockwise direction around the eye of the hurricane, which most people think that it's very hard and strong in the center. The closer to the center it gets harder, but actually the eye of the hurricane is the easiest part of the hurricane to be in. Hurricanes form over really warm ocean water of around 80 degrees Fahrenheit or warmer. These are tornadoes. A tornado is a violent rotating column of air extending from a thunderstorm to the ground. The most violent tornadoes are capable of tremendous destruction with wind speeds of up to 300 miles per hour. They can destroy large buildings, uproot trees, and even hurl vehicles many football fields. Damage paths can excess over 1 mile wide, even all the way up to 50 miles long. In an average year, 1,000 tornadoes are reported nationwide in the United States alone. In this map right here, there are two colored areas. The big red spot and the much smaller yellow spot. So, The red spot is just where you're most likely going to find tornadoes in the United States. They can form other places, but this is where you normally would find them, usually around the tornado season. And then the little one is Tornado Alley. Now, some people have heard of this, but if you don't know what it is, Tornado Alley is a place in the Central Plains where multiple tornadoes happen on a daily basis when it's tornado season. This is the deadliest place for tornadoes in the United States, if not the world. It's the most common place that you can find tornadoes. Climate is the average weather usually taken over a 30-year time period for a particular region. Climate is not the same as weather, but rather is the average pattern of weather for a particular region. Weather describes the short-term state of the atmosphere. Climate is what decides these seasons. It makes spring, spring, summer, summer, autumn, autumn. And then, of course, winter, winter. So, if you're closer to the equator, which is about right there, a little higher, but, if you're close to the equator, let's say within 10 degrees latitude of the equator, it's very hard to distinguish the seasons. Winter might not feel like winter to you, like it would feel winter to me. It would still feel the same as if it were summer, but you wouldn't notice because there is almost no climate change because of the way that the earth tilts. And then in the poles, very far from the equator, it's the same thing, except it's a cool climate. It's very cold, but the only thing that helps you distinguish the seasons is since it's tilting, so you can at least see some light during the spring and the summer. That's when you know it's spring and summer. But if you could see the same amount of sunlight year round, you wouldn't know the difference between winter and summer because they're virtually the same thing, or at least they feel like it. But if you're in the middle of it, between like the equator and the poles, then you can distinguish all of the seasons. Because in the summer, it's very warm. Well, warmer than it is in, let's say, autumn or winter. But winter, it's much, much colder because you're not getting as much sunlight.